care of it. So again, my name is Mary Long, and I'm the service manager at the Bridgestone Complete Auto Care in Beaufort, Georgia. I've been with Firestone just under 8 years, and during that time I've been a tire manager, a store manager, an administrative assistant, and now the service manager. And as service manager, I do hold several ASC certifications so that I can supervise technicians at work and care for your car. So let's talk about those tires again. Just to give you an idea, you guys just saw what it was like to have different types of tires. Now, all of those tires met the minimum requirement performance standards for those BMWs, but you tell me there were some major differences, weren't there?
Yes.
What were some of those differences you felt?
Well, I thought I was going to die in that Ecopia.
Yeah, in the first one. Yeah.
The Ecopia is all about saving you money, getting lots of life out of the tire. It meets the minimum safety standards for the vehicle, okay? But y'all were driving it a little bit beyond the minimum safety standards of the vehicle. Y'all were hot rodding, driving like Mario Andretti. And so there are tires that are specifically designed for that. Y'all got to experience that difference. So let's step back into the real world, Atlanta driving, sometimes a little Mario Andretti, but for the most part, normal worldwide driving. So, tires are the most important thing, have no doubt about it, because if your tires aren't touching the ground, you have no control of your vehicle. If your tire's not touching the ground competently with all the structural integrity it's supposed to have, you are not going to have control of your vehicle, okay? So, everyone hold up a hand like this. There's about this much contact space on your tire touching the asphalt. So when you hold up 4 hands, that's all that connects your car to the planet Earth. And y'all were out there, it didn't seem like you're going that fast, only 10, 15 miles an hour. Atlanta traffic, we get up in excess of 70 miles an hour. 4 hands holding you to the earth. Let's make sure those are the best qualified hands possible, okay? So let's go over here and look at some tires. When we inspect a tire, we're looking at the tread depth, how deep is that groove? That's how the water evacuates. We're looking at the rubber to make sure that there's no damage to it, because that's what's touching the ground. Now, on the back, it's very hard to see the condition of these tires, and it's why it's important that when you go to have your oil change, that you have a professional inspect those tires, because when they lift that car in the air, they're going to be able to see all the secrets of this tire. So let's step forward. When you look at this tire, for the most part, yes, it's worn, okay? Worn on the edges, and it's time to replace it. But what you can't see when this tire is mounted up on the car is that this tire has now become a safety issue. The driver of this car could not see the inside of this as long as it was on the car and on the ground. So that's why it's important to be able to inspect your tires from below, because there are certain things you're never going to see. So when you're inspecting your front tires, you turn it out. Now, every tire made has a little speed bump down in the grooves. That is a tread wear indicator bar. If you don't have a penny in your hand to be able to check the tread depth, remember, if you can see the top of Lincoln's head, it's time to replace tires. So the tread wear bar is at 230 seconds. If that tread wear bar is even with the rubber on either side of it, your tire, it's time to replace it. So you don't have to be a world-class genius to know when it's time to change those tires. It'd be nice if you change the tires just a little bit before it gets that severe, okay? Now, you check your tire pressures. How do you know how much air goes in the tire?
The internet.
The internet is actually a very excellent and valid suggestion. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere and don't have signal, or your cell phone dropped and isn't working, how else are you going to know?
Is it written on the tire somewhere?
The maximum inflation pressure for that particular tire, but that maximum inflation pressure has nothing to do with the car that it's supporting.
Owner's manual.
Owner's manual, and follow me.
I'm going to get this right eventually.
I'm winning right now.
I just keep guessing.
95% of all of our cars have the tire size and inflation pressures on the door plate. On the handful of cars where it's not on the driver's side door plate, it could be on a door plate in other portions of the car, or open your glove box. If in doubt, if those aren't there, perhaps it's a much older car, yes, Google is a wonderful thing. Alright, so we check your tire pressures. Now, all cars made since 2007 require direct tire pressure monitoring systems, so that's why you have a little light that dings at you and says, it's time to check your pressures, there's a problem. Those sensors are usually in the valve stem. They're part of the valve stem. Sometimes they're on a band inside the rim, on the rim itself. So it's not something that you can manually touch, but that sensor is there for your safety. Don't get in the habit of ignoring it, okay? So as he discussed, you need to be checking that tire pressure at least once a month. If you are going on a long trip, you need to check it before then, and check it while you're on the trip. Now, that tire pressure monitor is going to tell you when the tire pressure gets below a certain threshold. But if you've got a major blowout because it was a large rock in the road, you're not going to really have time to respond, which means you're going to end up putting your spare on or calling AAA to help you put your spare away. Where do you keep your spare?
Wherever your car keeps it.
Wherever the car keeps it. Well, on this car, it keeps it in the trunk. If you're driving a minivan, it's usually under the car between the two axles. And on a pickup truck, it's usually under the bed of the truck between the rear axle and the bumper. And there will be special tools when it's under the vehicle like that.
Oh yeah, I had a story about one of those.
Yes.
We had no idea what it was, and we were using it to hold the owner's manual open, and we were like, how do we get the tire down?
It would be nice if you've never had that pleasure and adventure of changing a tire before you go on a long trip. You really owe it to yourself to take the weekend before and take 30 minutes to an hour and kind of explore your car, okay? Change that spare tire. Go to any tire shop and say, show me how to change my tire in case this happens. Because you do not want to go through this for the first time in the dark, in the rain, on the side of a busy road, okay? And trying to read an owner's manual if your car has it. Because sometimes we buy an older car and it doesn't have that owner's manual. So part of that emergency preparedness is know how to use your equipment and know where it is and know the condition of it. So your spare tire should be at what pressure? Pop quiz.
Proper pressure.
That's a good answer. Now, if it's a full-size spare, it's going to be the same pressure as your normal tires because it's a normal tire. But if it's one of those emergency temporary spares, the donuts we call them, those are 60 pounds, okay? So you'll check the pressure of your spare tire. You'll check to make sure you have a jack and the tools to change it with. Now, in those handy-dandy little emergency roadside kits, there's going to be flares, and you want to set those out as well. Okay? So that's part of your emergency preparedness. There's 4 things we talk about for going on a trip. You check your pressures, rotate your tires, inflate them, make sure your tread depths are good. Make sure you're prepared for the adventure when it happens. Okay? So spare tires make the 5th tire on the car. That is a rubber product. It does, if you use it very much, of course, it's going to wear out. But over time, especially as we keep cars more than 10 years now, it may have to be replaced because of the age of the rubber. So let's go back up to the front of the car. So we've talked about tires a lot today. Pressures, tread depth. What caused this tire to meet such an unfortunate end?
Out of alignment.
Alignment. All right. So, you know the answer to this question already. But you guys, what is an alignment for a car?
It's how straight the car goes. When you're just going straight.
Isn't it the level, how level it is to the ground?
That's called ride height. And ride height needs to be taken into consideration when you're checking the alignment. But it is not directly a cause related to the alignment. Okay? Technically, an alignment is making sure the tires, the wheel assemblies, are in alignment with the car's body. Now, what does that mean in real terms? Have any of y'all ever been to a chiropractor?
Yes.
What do? They snap, crackle your joints until you stand up straight and face forward. We do the same thing to the car, except maybe there's not so much snapping, crackling, and popping. But we adjust the joints on a car. They're called tie rod ends, ball joints, control arms. And we adjust this tire till it runs straight with the car and stands up straight or is tilted to the manufacturer's specification. When your tires are aligned, it affects and improves your gas mileage. When it's out of alignment, it affects your gas mileage in a bad way. It affects the tire wear. It can cause pulling. You know, your car can be out of alignment and not cause pulling because if the tires are going towards each other, towards the same amount, or away from each other the same degree, it's not going to be an overpowering of one side to the other. So you may not have a pulling issue, but you may have a very serious alignment issue. How often should you rotate, balance, and align your tires?
Every oil change.
That is a very good rule of thumb. Your car manufacturer and the tire manufacturer would prefer that you check your alignment and correct it as needed, do your rotate and balance at least every 5,000 miles. Now, why would you need to do that more often? Hint, we live in Atlanta.
Depending the driving that you're doing.
The driving that you're doing. And it may be the driving style. If you're in construction and you're jumping in over curbs and going off-roading, if you have a lot of speed bumps or railroad tracks in your daily driving, that's going to adversely affect the tires and the alignment of the car. So that's why you may need to do that alignment, rotate, and balance more often based on how you use the car and the environment conditions you use the car. Okay? So you keep your tires inspected, and that will keep you on top of taking care of those items. Okay? So enough about tires. They're very important. The most important, my favorite part of the car. Now there's 7 fluids in a car. Can anybody name 4 out of 7?
Water.
Water. That does what? That
Cools
does
it down.
Okay, that would be your antifreeze or your coolant.
Coolant.
Okay,
Brake.
coolant's brake fluid,
Transmission.
transmission fluid,
Oil.
oil. We're up to 4, 3 more to go.
Antifreeze.
That's coolant.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Steering.
Power steering fluid. That's 5.
Windshield
windshield
wiper.
Washer fluid. And the one fluid that you don't get to operate your car whatsoever if you don't have any. Right about 320
gasoline.
gallon right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Gasoline. That's right. That's right. So these 7 fluids you'll need to check. You need to check before your big trip. You need to check at every oil change. Okay. When you're on a trip, you should be checking these fluids every time you stop and fill up for gas. Okay. And some rule of thumb when you're checking your fluids and what do you add for them. So where do you find out? I mean, some of these fluids are standard, like washer fluids, pretty much washer fluid, but oil. I mean, there's all sorts of different kinds of oil, different weights, and there's full synthetic and standard oil and blends and all this sort of stuff. There's different transmission fluids, and there's different power steering fluids, and there's, oh my goodness gracious. Where are you going to look to find out what fluid?
Google.
Google? Yes, that's one of 2 choices. Second
Manual?
choice, the owner's manual. That's right. That's right.
We've
See, you got this.
Google your manual.
Those resources are literally at your fingertips, either in the book or on your smartphone through
Right.
the internet. Okay. So you wash your fluid. You're going to fill it. Now these locations are going to vary from car to car. Some of them, the washer fluid filler, is going to be up by the windshield, maybe over on the driver's side. So you'll always read the symbol on top. Okay. Over here we have a radiator cap. Now this is not the radiator, and you're like, well, what's up with that? This is our overflow tank. So some cars have a different setup that you monitor the coolant through the overflow tank instead of the radiator, because the radiator is tucked up under a lot of hardware you can't access it. Now, when do you check your coolant?
Not when your car is hot.
That's right. When the coolant's not cool. That's right. What happens if you were to check it when it's hot?
It explodes.
It can cause severe burns. Yes, it flashes the steam and causes severe burns. So you can touch the cap comfortably. It's okay. The other way is if you know the radiator hose, you can grab the radiator hose. But the radiator hose has a very real chance of being hot, dirty, and nasty. So always go by the cap. Let the car sit a good 30 minutes. You'll be fine. Okay. So you add coolant if it's low. There's little lines on the side, but you don't overfill it. Okay. Now, what's this one here? Come over here and look at this. Tell me what this one is.
Steering.
Yes, power steering fluid. Now, sometimes on the cap it'll tell you what kind of fluid to put in it, but always refer to your manual. Sometimes it's power steering fluid. Sometimes it's a very specific type of power steering fluid, only by the dealer or a certain manufacturer. And sometimes it's transmission fluid, of all things. You never want to cross-contaminate any of your fluids. They have very specific jobs. Some do cooling, some do lubrication, and some do both. Okay? And some of them are water-based, some of them are oil-based. It's very, very important to keep your fluids different. So this is where we fill our oil. Where do we check our oil at?
What's the difference?
Yeah, I was supposed to
I do know what that looks like.
over there. Well, you open
Oh,
it
it's
and
right
then
there.
yeah,
There you go.
then you're gonna check in there.
Usually in orange or yellow for the most part. They try to make it.
we're all like,
It's somewhere.
Now here's the real question. How do you check your transmission fluid?
Isn't there a dipstick for that too?
Show me.
That one's not letting me.
And you may use the flashlight. Look around.
There you go. Look like you know what you're doing.
And I'll tell you a secret. Have y'all heard of a few years back they were advertising a car that has a new transmission? You don't hear it shifting, and it keeps the ladies doing
Oh, is
makeup.
this that car?
Some of those cars are, some are not. And with those new technologies, we've come about with new ways to manage our fluids. So a lot of cars do not have a dipstick for the transmission fluid. You are correct.
Okay.
So
I would have kept looking for the record.
now, right down here, this is for the dealership or the service provider to check your transmission for that little stick up there. But you see, they kind of camouflage it because they really don't want you messing with it. So it's not a yellow or a silver for you to be paying attention to. Now, what about the brake fluid? Where's that? Well, you know, this is who wants to be millionaire, call a friend, so you can ask
me, my friend Dante, where is the brake fluid?
That's right, another yellow cap.
There you go.
Okay, so all your fluids are very important to the car. Once you've checked it, it's very important to make sure you secure the cap over the top of it.
I do like this color coding though.
Yes.
That's a good rule of thumb. Like, I just wish there was like a big key right here.
Yeah, there should be like a legend.
Like there should be a legend.
Yeah.
Here's the symbol you're looking for.
Well, that legend is in the owner's manual. And in the owner's manual, a lot of them do, I've seen only maybe 2 owner's manual that were color, but they do usually put like the color of the cap or the color of the fluid. Okay? And then, of course, we all know where we load the fuel into the car.
Yes.
Where do you check your fuel? You check it with the gauge.
Correct.
And so what are some of the important things about fuel that you need to know?
Use the right one for your car.
Use the right one for your car, because some cars are supposed to use that high octane, and some cars cannot use the high octane. What about, is there such a thing as bad gas or old gas? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And how can you, what can you do to identify problems or potential problems?
Well, I don't think you want to know how I found my potential problem, and that was when the gas tank rusted out and there was rust in the.
Right. Well, and keep in mind that up north, due to the salt that they use on the roads, gas tanks rust out quite a bit, and it's not the fault of the gasoline at all. One of the things, if you are a low mileage driver, or perhaps you don't use your car much, it sits up for long periods of time, try to keep the tank full if it's going to go in storage. That sounds kind of counterproductive, but if the fuel is in there, there's no room for water vapor. Okay. Using gas from gas stations that are very busy means that the gas in their tanks stays well circulated and flushed. Okay. If any time that you suspect that you may have some bad gas, stop immediately and seek professional care at the dealership or at your service provider, because some cars have fuel filters external to the fuel pump. And catching that and changing that fuel filter can save you several $100s worth of repairs. Okay? What kind of questions have y'all got?
You're doing really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what.
But now I don't have the excuse that I don't know.
That's
so he has to do
Oh, I
it.
forgot. Oops.
Now,
Remember that color coding?
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
know.
Now, you brought up a good question about your comment about, oh, I forgot. There are several apps that you can download on your phones now, since y'all are so internet savvy, that help you remind and take care of your car and monitor. You know, of course, my favorite happens to be Firestone. It's called My Firestone. And you can actually set up it for all your individual cars. You can name your car, for those of us that name our little Berthas and Bessies. And it'll help you track, all your scheduled maintenance. So that leads me to one of my final statements, is scheduled maintenance. We talked about emergency preparedness. We talked about the tires. We talked about the fluids. What is scheduled maintenance?
It's the routine, regular checkup stuff.
Yes.
That's as vague as I can probably get vaguer, but
Checkup and service.
yeah.
All right. So some of the things for us as scheduled maintenance is, yes, getting our annual exams, but also getting our annual flu shot. That's a scheduled maintenance for us, right? So we're taking our daily vitamins. That's a scheduled maintenance for humans.
Like oil changes and things like that.
Oil change is the #1 scheduled maintenance, the one we always think about. But you know, a lot of your fluids do require scheduled maintenance, such as your coolant. Your antifreeze is supposed to be changed either based on miles or based on time, and that's all going to be with your owner's manual and your manufacturer's recommendations. Transmission fluid is another one. And on some cars, even the brake fluid has a time or mile interval. Other things besides fluids are going to be your air filter for your engine, be your cabin air filter in the car. Now, the cabin air filter means the air through the air conditioning, so that's for your respiratory wellness and for the longevity and performance of your air. So, where are you going to find that scheduled maintenance intervals and what should be done for your car?
Owner's manual.
Yes, and
Google.
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Because different cars do have different needs, and it's very tailored and designed. Older cars maybe not need so much service as the newer cars. So, any more questions?
So long. I learned so much. Now I have to start thinking about what I need to do better.
It's a lot less